So in a way, just to receive with grace is the invitation of life, right? To receive with grace, to open to the fullness of the moment, everything that is here, and to be so aware in the body of where there may be some resistance to what's here. To open to the moment is to be very fully present with and as the moment. We have generally been so conditioned to try to get away from the fullness of what is here. And in that, it can be uncomfortable at times to really be with what is here. And so then the invitation to rest and receive, to be fully open, welcoming, and as the frequency of love, fully inclusive of all that is here. To so fully welcome this moment just as it is. In a way, it's the technology of how we come to realize that there is only this, only what is. Only what is not a concept for us to rest in flippantly. Only what is the frequency of reality, just this. And so, in a way, the lived experience of life and what we want to resist is exactly the grace where we're invited to receive what we want to resist in order to undivide the life and release the protections and learned habits to push away so that we can fully and truly live in an openness that is the frequency of love, right? And essentially that is what we are longing for. However we say it, whatever way of expressing it or whatever that feels like, there's only one thing happening, and all humans are essentially longing for the same thing. All humans are longing to remember their divinity, to remember the love and openness and wholeness that is the true essential nature, the divinity, the purity. We could say the innocence. To remember and to embody the fullness and brilliance of the light that we are. And the glory is that it's not actually about changing anything, fixing anything, or traveling anywhere. It's about being here so fully present that the veils that act as obscurations fall away, that are like the filters in the sense of the experience being personal, that the filters fall away and the fullness of the light of all that is and the all-encompassing love that we are is revealed as always being here. Right? That the only veiling is the belief that it's not here, that we are not, right? The only veiling is the belief that there's something wrong in this moment, and coming to the deep and profound recognition that what is wrong in this moment is me. It's not actually wrong, but we're holding a deep belief. There's something wrong here, and it's me, right? There's something wrong with me. I've done something wrong. I'm not whole. I'm not full. Life is wrong. I've been wronged. And as long as we're holding this frequency, and mostly unconsciously we're holding the frequency, we're holding this protective mechanism that's in a way acting as a veil, acting as a karmic obscuration, because we're in collaboration with the karmic system, being the cause and effect, the play of opposites, the idea that if you do this, this will be the effect, which is the whole idea that we can problem solve our way out of a situation, or we can fix and change ourselves, and that somehow if we fix and change, or we solve the problem of me, then I'll be happy. But ultimately, it's never about anyone else, anything else, or the situation. It's always about our inner frequency. It's always about how we are actually seeing ourselves and what we are believing about ourselves that acts as the obscuration that seems to veil the brilliance of divine light, the light that we are, that seems to veil the unabandoned, untamed love, unconditional love that we are. So the glory is that we're never away from this truth. We always are this one truth, this love, this light. It's all that's here. And it's our own direct experience of self-created limitation that has us believe that we're away from it, and then spends the life trying to fix and change and work hard and effort to find it. But what we're trying to find is what we already are. And the way to find it is to stop trying to find it and be so present here now that we realize, hallelujah, I already am. Right? Hallelujah, I already am. It's not about making a journey and working upon yourself progressively and making yourself ready for revelation. It's opening to the field of revelation. It's opening to where revelation is. And revelation is not in the mind, and it's not in the projected world. Revelation is not in the personal experience. Revelation is in the frequency of the mystical revelation. The revelatory field is the revelation, the frequency of love, the frequency of being, the openness, the stillness, the presence is where revelation is. And revelation is not in time, so it's not in the future. It's here now. And it's just about being so fully present here now that you're open to revelation, right? Open to revelation, resting in the depthful relaxation of just being. There's this ability to naturally welcome the moment just as it is, open to the moment, truly receive the moment, whatever life is offering, to know in the deepest heart, this is all grace. This is all carrying me into a depthful ability to hold myself here as the presence of being, and know that there's nothing that can obscure the brilliance and the warmth of the eternal sun of the one heart, right? And so, great glory, show me. Great glory, show me what I may not be able to see right now, what I may feel like I don't have the capacity to hold right now, what I may not feel I have the courage to face. Hold me, show me, guide me. And so we open to guidance, we open to support, we open to recognize that we're not alone in this. There's a surrender, but it's not a personal surrender. It's not a surrender that is a doing. It's a surrender that hands yourself over to God, hands yourself over to love. And in a way, it's a curious arrival at a kind of letting go of hope, letting go of the hope that if I just keep fixing and changing myself and solving the problem of me, that then I'm going to arrive in some kind of happiness. Then I'm going to be good. So in a way, the end of hoping for the outcome of the life that the me wants on a certain level might feel like hopelessness. But it's the hope of truth. It's the hope of reality. It's the hope of wholeness, of the glory, the hope of divinity that is actually a frequency that carries us into the profound remembrance of what we have always been. And so it's not someone's remembrance. It's not a mental remembrance. It's an attunement, an alignment with a resonant frequency field. And in a way, it's a knowing, really more than a remembrance. And yet the knowing is an attunement with what has always been known. And it brings a kind of resting, a kind of relaxation, a simple beingness that lets go in a natural surrender into the holding of the field of love that says, I don't have to keep pushing here. I don't have to keep trying. I don't need to know how to fix or change or problem solve. I don't have to do anything here, but allow myself to be held by what holds everything. Allow myself to be held by what I belong to. And you don't have to know in any kind of measurable way where you are in this unfolding. It's not about achieving something or being at a certain place or stage or achievement or level. It's about being here now as the timeless being that just is. And not having any mental sense of being anywhere or anything, or knowing anything, or knowing how or why or what. This is the surrender, is the letting go of trying to answer all the questions that the mind so desperately wants to hold on to and uses as ways of measuring. And instead of trying to measure, it's just letting go into the unfathomable, timeless wildness of the moment. So when we speak of a deep relaxation, we really are speaking of just being here, and kind of being so present here that there's a natural releasing of the habitual tendency to respond to a kind of inner anxiety that says, look for something else, try to find a distraction here, try to numb yourself, try to find something, anything but this. It's like a buzz or a hum in the nervous system that just says, what could you do now? Which direction could you go in? How could you get away from this moment? What can you think about? What can you do? What can you look up? What can you try to find the answer to? How could you try to change this experience of this moment? How could you get away from yourself? Right? So as the words come, it's always about not mentally trying to understand. It's about an attunement. And as part of that attunement and the receiving of the transmission, because it's like being an antenna that receives a frequency transmission. As there's a receiving of the frequency transmission, the field is being opened and attuning to itself. And there are recognitions and insights that come. Let them come. Don't hang on to anything. Don't glob on to anything. Let the flashes come, see it. And just let the intelligence that you are and the intelligence of the field that is the nervous system. It is the nervous system that can be in a constant sort of buzz of angst. It is the nervous system, it is the consciousness. And as the attunement happens, the field is aligning and regulating itself and attuning itself with a finer frequency. So just to allow, nothing needs to happen. You don't need to do anything, understand anything, achieve anything. Nothing. It really is about just openly receiving. Being held. Be held. Be held here, now. Let go. Let go of the trying. Let go of trying to understand, trying to be someone, something. Let go of trying to solve. Let go of trying to get it right. Because where there's someone trying to get it right, underneath that is the someone that believes there's something wrong with me, right? So let's attune in more deeply with what's underneath all of the habitual tendencies to buzz around and try to distract and get away. Let's really open to receive the one who feels like there's something wrong. Let's receive the one that feels like there's something wrong with me, something wrong with my life, something wrong with the way that I'm feeling, something wrong with the way that things are playing, something wrong with the way I was treated. All of the ways that we are conditioned to go towards this idea that something is wrong with this moment, something wrong with this kind of inner angst, something wrong with the tenderness of my heart, something wrong with the fact that I have feelings, something wrong with the fact that I'm angry, something wrong with the fact that I'm sad, that I'm hurt, something wrong with the fact that there's something happening in my body that feels like it's not functioning 100%. All of the ways that we're so habituated to make a stance, a posture against what is happening. Something wrong with the ways of relating, something wrong with my location, something wrong with my job, something wrong with my partner, something wrong with my children, something wrong with my parents, right? All of the ways. And we're not trying to map and go towards anything in particular. We're mapping and just noticing, oh wow, there's quite a lot of little points here that I can notice where there is, in a way, a posture that's wanting to point away from the moment, like a projection. And the projection can be outwards onto things and people and situations and places. And the projection can also be upon ourselves, right? And the projection is the way of getting away from actually being here as the love that loves me, actually being here as the holding that is holding me, actually being here with the divine, actually being here with love, actually being here with God, with the Divine Mother, actually being here with everything that we are longing for, right? So as the words are coming, allow the illumination of the light that you are as the awareness to see and just notice, oh, I see that. Yep, yep. Oh, yeah, I do that. Oh, wow, right? Let there be wows and ahas, and don't make a move to change anything. Just see it. As you see it, it gets included and welcomed instead of being a posture or a movement away from the moment. I need to follow that up, right? I'm going to think about how there's something wrong here. Instead of making that move in the seeing of it as awareness sees it, love includes it. The light illuminates, love welcomes. The light illuminates, love blesses. The light illuminates, love embraces. The light illuminates, love says, I love you. I got you. Love says you are safe. Love says you are beautiful. Love says you are love. Love says there's nothing wrong here. Nothing wrong with you. Nothing to get away from. No move to make. Actually, hand yourself over to me. I've got you. I've got you. I'm holding you so fully, so completely. And there's a part of you that knows this. But relax and soften and just be here. And just let the frequency field of your heart's knowing and where you can feel the stillness and the silence of being, just be here and drop in. Be absorbed. Be infused with love's magic. Be infused with love's love. Be infused with the frequency of your own divinity. Be infused with the holding of the mother that loves you. Without conditions, without agenda or imposition. a love that just loves you, and a constant, infinite, eternal showering of blessings. Receive the blessings. Receive the love. To whatever capacity openness is open to receive, just receive. There's nothing being asked of you. Now that in itself is very alien, because we're used to something being asked of us. Because the relational dynamics in the collective, where separation and the belief in division is prevalent, let's say, there's always something being asked of us. So in a way, we're in a protective posture that's saying, what do you want from me? Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you get me? Am I safe? What do you want from me? Am I giving you what you want in order that I get my needs met, right? So we learned very young in the needs met structure, what do I have to do to be seen here? What do I have to do to be nourished here? And we learned very, very young, likely pre-verbal, how to get our needs met and to feel nourished. And we often felt like there wasn't enough nourishment and that our needs were not met. So we learnt that there was a sense of lack. And we took on a misunderstanding that that lack was somehow because there's something wrong with me. And then we learnt how to morph and shift and read the moment according to, what do I have to do to get my needs met here? What do I have to do to be nourished here? And then this posture has become a belief in division, a belief in limitation, the misunderstanding that there's division and that we're divided from God, from the glory, from the true mother. And that we posture through the life, kind of stumbling and bumbling along the best we can, innocently, right? Trying to make relationships and be successful and have a purpose. We grow up into adults where we're still kind of bumbling along, where the inner child is driving the ways that we behave. But we've got these adult bodies and we get all these bigger ideas of how we need to present ourselves, what success is, how we need to be seen, how we need to show up. Am I seen? Am I understood? Am I achieving my potential? Right? And all the while, there's this child who feels like there's lack and not enough nourishment and is posturing to try to get my needs met and not really knowing, what am I doing wrong? Why are my relationships just not gorgeous and fluid? Why is life kind of tricky? Why is there suffering? Why are there challenges? Why do I feel limitation? Why am I constantly trying to prove myself, but never feeling like I'm seen, right? All of the things that every being in a human life is dealing with, no matter where that human is positioned in the play of life, no matter how much resources a being has, every human is battling with the same inner child dialoguing with a great belief in lack. And that great belief in lack is unconscious, and it believes essentially that there's something wrong with me and that there's not enough nourishment, that there's lack, there's not enough, right? So we're deeply ingrained, unconsciously ingrained in these ideas, and we're trying so hard. We're doing our best. Every being is doing their best. We're trying so hard to fix it, problem solve, change it. We're taking courses, we're doing practices, We're working at it. We're really working at it. But the thing is, we cannot find a solution on the level of effect. We cannot find a solution at the same frequency of consciousness that the discord was created. We cannot find a solution through the mind and the mental. No matter how many cycles we go around the merry-go-round, how many practices we learn, and how much time we spend trying to psychologically fix ourselves, we can only go so far before we actually have to realize that there's a graduation that is being invited, and the graduation is out of the psychological realm and the realm of limitation and into the unlimited, infinite possibility and the field where the frequency doesn't fix you, it doesn't resolve your problems, it shows you, oh, there is no problem. I was the problem, right? The frequency I was broadcasting at was the problem. I've spent my whole life broadcasting from a frequency of a deep core belief that there's lack and I'm broken, there's something wrong with me. And I've been trying to be successful when my frequency is saying something completely different. So it's like an impossibility to fix and change and resolve the problem of me at the same frequency field. Let's call it the frequency field of fear or lack or doubt. We can't fix ourselves in the same frequency field. We can spend an awful lot of money trying to fix ourselves, but actually, until we shift our frequency to make our allegiance with love and not with fear, then we're somehow, if our allegiance is with fear, we're just constantly regenerating the frequencies of limitation. And we're constantly broadcasting from a deeply held belief, frequency, resonance of limitation that says, I am not fixable. I will never be fixed. I will never be whole. Because on a certain level, at that frequency, it's truth, right? But it's a belief. And beliefs are not truth, right? Beliefs are not truth. Truth is truth. Truth that is true is a truth that has never changed. Truth is love. Truth is God. And part of that truth is that we cannot fix a problem that is cycling in the mind as belief on the level of another belief. So we can't fix a seeming problem on the level of a solution within a limited context, right? We can't put a Band-Aid on. We can cycle around and around and around, and we can have days that feel better. We can feel like we're making progress. But if we haven't shifted the frequency that we're broadcasting from, and we haven't dismantled, in a way, our habitual addiction survival mechanism, that addiction is a survival mechanism to the original needs met structure, then we'll keep cycling with it. And the thing is that it gets deeper within the unconscious. And the deeper that it gets is that we're looking for love, and we're looking to get our needs met, and we're looking for that nourishment that feels to be lacking. We're trying to find an abundant nourishment. So we're looking within a world view that's created from limitation. And so the world view is limited. We're trying to find a nourishment that is unlimited. We're constantly disappointed. But we have this core, deeply held belief that to keep playing out the same program that we played out when we were young is love. right? So we have this unconscious belief that lack, let's say, not being seen, not getting enough nourishment, not trusting, not being too happy, not being too shiny, definitely not being too free, not being too joyful, that holding ourselves in limitation is somehow loving, because we make an allegiance with our parents, with our mother, with our caretakers, that our needs met structure says, make an allegiance here, get your needs met. And it's wrapped in with a family tribal consciousness that says, don't leave this structure, because if you leave this structure, you're going to break our bond of love, right? So there's a deep pre-verbal and unconscious structure that's part of this that says, if I actually leave the frequency of fear, I'm going to break the bond of love with my family, with my mother, with my father, with my caretakers. And that is certain death. I won't survive that, right? So the glory is that just as we speak of this, we're bringing forward a frequency field of revelation. We're bringing forward a frequency field of brightness and illumination. And we're opening to the ahas and the wows within our inner functioning, where we are the light that illuminates. We are the love that welcomes. And we start opening to realize, oh, wow. Maybe we don't grasp it fully. We don't need to look with the mind and try to map it and work it out. But as we just feel a resonance, that resonance of recognition is the frequency field that starts to illuminate and shift the patterns of discordance, starts to clear the discordance. And in a way, it upgrades the fear frequencies to love. It's like, it's this, right? Here's the discordance. Here are the fear frequencies. They've taken the shape of a needs met structure of unconscious commitments to our families of origin, unconscious behaviors and protections. But as the light shines upon and starts to illuminate, we don't need to make any move of doing, fixing, changing, understanding, working it out. That in itself is a move away. It's a move of this to take another shape. It's truly about really coming to a place of recognizing that all that is needed in this unfolding for depthful, true, pure healing to happen is to give our utter commitment to love. And of course, that is terrifying, because we've learned that to stay committed to the needs met structure and to limitation and fear, somewhere in us, we believe that is love, right? So there's a belief that if I stay small and if I don't leave here, then I'm still in the field of love with my mother, with my father, with my caregivers, with my family consciousness. If I stay here, then that is love. Even though there's a part of us that's saying, wow, my family is so dysfunctional and there's all this craziness. There's something. And we try psychologically to get to the bottom of it. And we can go so far, and it's beautiful. We can go so far. Things like, I've been told by some of you, things like family systems, maybe something like that, start to touch this, right? Constellations, these kind of things, they start to touch this. But the actual resolution cannot happen on the level of the psychological. However many rounds you do, however much you try to work it out, without the frequency of wholeness, there will never be a permanent and true healing. And it can only happen within our own integral system. It can't happen. Nobody can give it to us, right? We can't be the saviors of others, right? Even that is a distraction away. The only way that this really unravels is in the frequency field of love that is truly open and natural, present and receptive, and receives whatever's happening in the system, and that we come to a depthful ability to receive the fullness of our experience at finer and finer frequencies, so that we are able to hold ourselves in whatever arises. As we've spoken of, freedom is really the knowing that we can hold ourselves, whatever is happening, and not be disturbed, because it brings us to an inner strength where we don't need to be rescued and we're not waiting to be saved, that we know that salvation is in God, that salvation is in love. And here it's actually really important to say God, that salvation is in God, because salvation is not in the mind, it's not in the world, it's not in the collective, it's not in things, it's not in practices, it's not in systems, it's not in religions, it's not in science. Salvation is in God. What is God? God is the mystical revelation. God is love. God is the frequency of wholeness. It's the frequency of the eternal infinite. And salvation is in the recognition that we are not divided, limited, broken, that we are whole and pure and perfect in God, in love, in the Divine Mother, in truth. And it doesn't matter really the words that we use, divinity, innocence, the immaculate, but it's opening to this frequency field and a turning to the frequency field where there's no problem to solve. And we stop trying to solve the problem and we start living in the field of revelation, mystical revelation. We start living as a frequency field of mystical revelation where we're open and available for revelation, and we are taken by grace into finer and finer frequencies of consciousness. And here we might call this the field of the miraculous, because here's the magic, here's things shifting and changing and morphing before our eyes without solving any problem, but just boom, a whole different frequency of functioning, because you're broadcasting from love and not from fear. You're broadcasting and you're creating from a frequency of wholeness. And so the reflection is wholeness, the lived experience is reality. What we're so used to is broadcasting from a frequency of fear and limitation and lack, and something's wrong with me. And then we make a projected world from our mental filters, which is actually creative inspiration that's trying to reflect to us where we are holding beliefs and inviting us to feel the feelings and receive the fullness of the field. What happens is that we've been conditioned instead to try to solve that problem, to project it outwards or project it upon ourselves as guilt and shame and doubt. But until we meet that unconscious guilt in a way as the frequency of love, here's the unconscious guilt and here's the frequency of love. When we open to be the frequency of love that shines upon the unconscious guilt, it's like it pulls forward the unconscious, brings it to the surface. And as it gets pulled forward and comes to the surface, what is held as guilt and shame reveals itself to actually be made of the same substance, the same consciousness that purity is made of. And there's a remembrance. And so the shifting that happens isn't the solving of a problem. It's not about changing the shape. It's not about changing yourself or your life. It's about shifting out of the frequency of fear and living at the frequency of love. And as the frequency of love, we have this capacity then to keep loving all the fibers and threads of discordance in our lived experience. And then we come to, where we started, being so present in this moment, being so present in this moment as a frequency field of love that can hold everything, that can receive everything, that has a knowing of an inner strength that doesn't need to be saved externally or rescued, which is often what happens in a female biology, but it can happen in both biologies. The male biology is more likely to suppress feeling completely, right? The male biology isn't so much usually looking to be saved, although it might be looking definitely for external solutions, but is more likely to hold feelings in suppression and have learned to suppress, right? To be a brave soldier, to be a good boy. Don't cry. Boys don't cry, right? Right? And girls, you just wait for that handsome prince to come, right? You just wait until you're saved. You just wait until somebody will come and save you, right? So we can be held in these, again, as part of our needs met structure, in these archetypal ideas where we're not actually rooted in the inner strength and power of knowing our true nature, knowing where we're resourced from. When we know where we're resourced from and we're being resourced from the one source, the one power, we have this capacity to stop moving in the patterns that we've archetypally learned as survival mechanisms. We stop sacrificing ourselves, trying to be seen, understood, heard, successful. We stop sacrificing ourselves for a false, deceptive idea of love, because our heart starts to tell us what love truly is, and that love isn't about anything in the external, that what love is openness. It's unconditional openness. And we start attuning in our direct knowing of the truth of who we are with a sense of wholeness and beingness that recognizes this is love. Love isn't what I learned love is. And so I can untangle from the karmic system. I can untangle from all the ways that I try to play it out, to be what my family wants me to be the characters that's playing out like a deceitful love in a way, right? That sounds like a strong word, but it's a deceitful love because we're deceiving ourselves, right? It's not what we're longing for. It doesn't bring us joy and fulfillment and openness and freedom. And we can deceive ourselves like, oh yeah, you know, I met this girl, I met this guy, you know, I had an awesome time with my family at the weekend. We can deceive ourselves. But ultimately, there can be such a depthful loneliness trying to make worldly relationships work. If we're trying to find love on the external, we'll always be disappointed. Of course we will. We will only release that sense of disappointment when we open to true, pure love within our own heart, which is the one heart, where we know that what is love. I am love. Love is this moment in utter presence. We could say love is this moment without trying to get away from myself. Being so open to this moment is to be so open to yourself, to receive yourself, to meet yourself just as you are, all that you are, every single fiber of your being, the parts that you find beautiful and glorious and successful and happy and smooth, and the parts that you may want to deny or hide, or that you judge about yourself, even hate. The welcoming of this moment is this open receptivity that allows a relaxation with yourself that is so depthful. In a way, we could say, just check in with yourself right now, right? It's not about mapping your life in the past or story. It's about just check in right now and just feel within the field that you feel as your body, your physicality, the emotional and mental landscape. Just notice the sensations, the aliveness, the tensions, maybe that buzz of angst that we spoke of, just to notice what's here and to be so open to sensing and feeling and receiving what's here. What is your inner landscape right now? Can I open this moment and realize that all that's really here is my inner landscape? The view is a reflection of my inner landscape. If I focus upon the view, I may miss my inner landscape. So what if I focus upon the inner landscape and just be so present here? Sure, include the view, include the sense perception, but don't fragment away from the fullness of this moment by following a visual, a sound, a taste, a smell, a touch, right? Let the sense perception be here in its entirety, but don't let it divide the moment. Just be so open as if you're like an antenna that's just receiving the whole frequency field of the landscape of your consciousness right now. We'll only meet ourselves as depthfully as we are ready to. There are so many subtle, fine refinements that we continue to go through. And you know, the beauty is that the subtle refinements that we go through here is how the consciousness refines. And it's where we open to know our true nature. We don't come to know our true nature through the mind. through any kind of experience, it's consciousness being conscious of itself that brings us to know our true nature. So it's about being able to be here and be so present with what's here. As the presence deepens, the frequency of the consciousness refines, and our perception, refined perception in consciousness, starts to carry us into finer and finer frequencies of perception, where we start to really recognize the intelligence of what we're made of, what the nervous system really is, and how this all works. And it's profoundly empowering. And it's empowering because it is the intelligence of what we are. It's not learned knowledge. It's not mental knowledge. It's not systemized knowledge. In a way, it's true science. But true science isn't proven in the worldly. True science is the intelligence, the wisdom of life. The frequency field of the Veda, we could say, the living Veda. It's the living, reverberating field of all of the frequencies and flows of intelligence, knowing themselves and collaborating. And in that, there's a deep remembrance of what truth is. It's the field of smriti, right? And with the field of smriti, what comes through is a depthful guidance and a knowing, which is the shruti, right? It's what the rishis received, right? And we are all rishis, right? We have this capacity to receive the field of what isn't a learned and interpreted knowledge, but is the pure knowledge, which is the knowledge of the self, the knowledge of true nature, a field of a frequency that knows itself, a field of remembrance. It's the field of all of the intelligence of all that ever is across lifetimes and dimensions. And it's all here as a field, and we have access to it. It's a field of light frequencies. And as we open to be the light, we recognize that we are the light that is an intelligence that knows itself and can finally, in a refined way, perceive itself. And so, in a way, this is where we want to hang out, is resting, right? It's like then we realize, oh, yeah, there's not really any use in trying to read and learn, because the intelligence of life is right here in our inner landscape. And it's about being able to be so present here that we can receive it, that we can be infused, absorbed in the frequency field where shifting and refinement and recalibration happens. And of course, the glory is that as we're speaking of it right now, and as we are resting in this field right now, that this is what is happening, that the field is recalibrating itself. So the field and the intelligence, and therefore the field of consciousness and every nervous system, is being recalibrated as one universal consciousness. And upgrades are happening. We're open as a field of revelation. You don't need to understand anything here. You don't need to be seen. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to know how. It's just about the heart resonating at the frequency of yes. I give myself to you, glory. I give myself to you, great glory, divine mother, Lord, beloved, whatever word, right? God, I hand over all that I've thought that I am, and I open to your guidance. I open to your holding. I open to insight and revelation. I open to see. As the seer, I open to receive the intelligence that I am and be the wisdom light that shines upon, that sees, that truly sees, that I let go of trying to be seen, and I be the simple seer, the witnessing awareness of it all. And in that, I stop trying to problem solve and fix and change myself. I stop trying to give myself like a false kind of sovereignty, which is actually a conditioned protection. And I surrender to recognize that true sovereignty is being one with you, that I flower uniquely when I am rooted in the fertile ground of true nourishment. And I shift the great misunderstanding that nourishment is lacking, that I learned in my young life that there was not enough nourishment, that there was not enough love, that there was lack, right? And I realize here in the frequency field of love, of openness, of holding, that true nourishment is abundant and flowing, that I'm nourished here in you. I'm nourished here by you. I'm nourished here as one with you. And I rest here and I receive the nourishment and I feel the nourishment and I feel more whole. I feel more myself. I feel more myself. I feel more free and open. I feel relaxed and simple. And I notice that revelation and insight just comes, and that there's a softness, there's a tenderness in my heart, like a love for myself, a care, a kindness, and a patience with myself. And I realize that I can be more fully here with myself, loving myself, caring for myself, patient and generous with myself, because I know that I'm being held by you, great glory, great mother, beloved God, beloved one, beloved love. I'm held and I'm nourished and I'm safe. And so just this relaxation, it can bring like a heart-cracking open tenderness to let go into such a holding, because we're so used to posturing for a false safety. We're so used to posturing in division and limitation and holding ourselves. A kind of independence, self-reliance, a kind of vigilance, looking out, am I safe? Is it okay? Right? It's about resting. It's about really laying yourself down, laying down the burden of feeling like you have to fix yourself, that there's something wrong with you, and that you're broken, and that you need to hide the broken parts and only present an image of yourself that doesn't feel like the wholeness, right? That you actually receive the fullness of yourself. And there's a relaxation and a softening that happens as you just open to be with yourself and relax and rest, truly rest, resting here as the presence of being, just being here, resting as the stillness, the silence, the openness. The openness is love that is true and pure. And in this presence, in this field of presence, like a resting that really just lays down the burden of the story of me, and that I'm unfixable, and that I'm broken, and that there's something wrong with me, and that I'm going to spend this life trying to find the solution. That in a way, in this moment, it's this handing over. Okay, great glory, I leave it in your hands. I am yours. You show me. You make all the moves. I lay down and I rest, and I feel, and I sense, and I'm open, and I'm here, and I don't know anything, and I'm not going to make any moves to try to fix from a fear perspective. I'm only going to allow the movement of love to move me. And in this, I recognize that sometimes the moves might look similar, but I'm going to be really aware of where am I broadcasting from? Where am I moving from? Am I moving from an old frequency of fear and fixing and changing, wanting an outcome, feeling like I've got to make this better? Or is the movement like a kind of grace that says, here's a possibility? And it can look similar. It can look like some kind of support and holding and nourishment. But we're coming to be more attuned with, in the openness, where am I moving from? We start to attune with the intuitive frequency field of our knowing, where we come to realign with our intuitive knowing, where we attune with recognizing the natural flow of life, the natural flow of what feels true, right? We start to recognize the difference between an intuitive sense that we may believe is intuitive, that is rooted kind of in what the me wants, and the true intuitive knowing, which is the divine flow, right? So we start to open to living at the frequency of true intuitive knowing, the frequency of heart, the frequency of an openness, where all that is needed is that we rest in the field and the open frequency of being, and we just watch life happen. We watch life unfold. And as we watch life unfold, we're watching a kind of magic happen. We're seeing these synchronicities and spontaneous, incredible things. And we're joyous. We're living in a kind of wow and an awe and a wonder. And it starts to feel like more regular, because we're broadcasting from love and we're creating from love, and we're shifting the frequencies of limitation and lack. So resting here, really resting here, letting yourself really lay down here and open to this moment in its fullness, in a deeper way than you may have opened to this moment where we started. That in a way, it's about sinking in, infusing here, being absorbed here, a deep relaxation here, a softening, and just letting yourself be held. To notice the relaxation and the softening, to notice that you feel the fine feelings more deeply. Notice that you can be with yourself here. Notice that it starts to feel really beautiful and supportive to be here. And of course, if there are feelings that arise, it's about being able just to allow the subtle energetics, like the energy signatures of any feelings that arise here, to just unwind in the presence of the awareness that is aware and watching and holding, in the presence of the light that is shining upon, and the light is blessing, welcoming, embracing it all. And all of that is happening, just notice, in your inner functioning, that you have all the parts playing, like in a choreographed inner dance, a profound holding and seeing and precious, precious loving. So resting here, resting here, receiving yourself, softening deeper into your inner landscape, all of the subtle feelings, the feelings of protection, of sadness, of fear, of hurt, of doubt, of guilt and shame, of mistrust, of not knowing how, the sadness, the hurt, whatever it is, just allowing it all to be here. And also, of course, allowing the joy and the beauty and the awe and the wonder and the grace, the revelation, let it all be here simultaneously, not in any kind of competition or comparison. That just all that you are is not actually fighting with itself. It's not actually trying to get away from itself. You are not actually trying to make any move in any direction. Your deepest longing is to let go into love. The deepest longing is to let go into a holding that is safe, where there's a remembrance at the frequency level. This is true safety. This is what love is. This is who I am. I don't need to fight for any of this. I don't need to compromise myself or give power to anything outside of myself. The invitation here is this recognition. Wow, I'm being invited to hold myself and be with myself in the presence of the divine in order to know myself as divine, as pure, as integral, as whole, as love, right? So just resting here, resting here, resting here. Deep rest, relaxation, softness. just being here, just as you are. All of you is welcome. All of you is held. There's nothing to get away from. There's nothing to fix or change. It's not about feeling better or different. And yet you probably will, right? But start to notice, oh, when I don't try to feel different, that things start to shift. When I'm not trying to kind of force myself to feel any particular way, and I'm just truly here with myself, and I hold myself with such tenderness, and I allow myself to be as I am, there's a power that comes that realizes I don't need to get away from myself. I don't need to change this moment. I don't need to look it up or understand this moment. I don't need to bring in a practice or an external force. I actually can sink deeper into myself and the embrace of the divine, my intuitive knowing and the holding of the divine, by whatever name I may want to call that, or maybe by no name, just love, just truth, just this, right? So just resting here and allowing the intelligence to move. It's like handing yourself over and saying, love, I'm yours. Realizing that it's like a game of chess and we're all animated by the same one substance, the same one force, and that is love. And to recognize, okay, it's your game. You move me. You move the pieces on the board. I don't need to move the pieces on the board and try to get to a checkmate or win the game. But the game is yours. I am yours. I'm not trying to win the game of life. I'm just allowing the game of life to play through this form. I am one with you, and you are living and playing through this form. Life is living itself out. I don't need to do life. I can just be life. And life knows how to live. The intelligence knows how. So resting here